I've never seen a report on the hallucinations caused by the excessive dopamine output of methamphetamine. I stumbled upon it by accident after about 30 hours, and the hallucinations lasted about 36 hours as my cells were annihilated. Note, these are not caused by sleep deprivation combined with a stim. I've had mild eye corner hallucinations caused by staying up for about 36 hours on the stimulant psychedelic DOC. This is caused by dopamine forcing itself into cells it's not meant to enter. I ended up trying this mostly because I'm ADHD, and meth can be prescribed as Desoxyn by the USA pharmaceutical industry. I tried it shortly after my disastrous experiments with methylphenidate. I also submitted this trip report to Arrowhead and Psychonaut Wiki. 7:30 p.m. I just tried meth. I snorted it twice Sunday and snorted it repeatedly every few hours as I stayed up all night Monday until I snorted a line at 7:30 p.m. I'd been having acetylcholine visuals for a good hour, and they died down for a bit, so I snorted 45 milligrams. I got charged by a 1 meter tall black spinning wire monster shaped like the interactive buddy as I walked around my bed. I walked around my bed after doing that line, and I see him standing there with arms outstretched 45 degrees towards the ground, and then he raised his right arm and pointed it at me. He charged right through me, and then I turned and watched him dance and fade smoothly into my backpack in the corner. I actually picked up the backpack and looked behind it because it was so realistic, and I saw nothing. I then sat down, and within a minute, I saw about 40 realistic black but very slightly rainbow black widow spiders charging me from all sides in waves for about an entire hour. Each wave took about 1 or 2 seconds to reach me before they instantly reappeared back from the wall about 4 meters away. They were each about a half meter in diameter. I tried to focus on my computer because it really sucked as my cells were penetrated and annihilated by the unhampered dopamine efflux. I see bugs crawling all over in the carpet and faces swirling. I'm getting briefly touched on the back of my neck, on my leg, and all over my body. I did some research while being attacked by hallucinations, and it was probably in part due to my M1 muscarinic receptor being dogged by excessive dopamine output. Of course, there are a ton more mechanisms touched by the excessive dopamine output, but research is hard to come by. 7 a.m. I saw a 2D, but sometimes morphing in 3D, black entity in my carpet reminiscent of a cartoon 30s gangster I decided to call Mr. Homie. He had a suit, hat, and flat-top sunglasses and was about 20 to 25 centimeters tall. Mr. Homie had the power to paint 40-plus variations of something onto my vision, and by that I mean he reacted to the things being painted, and he also reacted to me. He appeared to be some kind of cerebral cortex manifestation reacting to my normal prefrontal cortex thoughts as I walked around my apartment. I remember seeing a salamence before it was butchered and transfigured into something homosexual and violent. The gay stuff was something like Meatwad from Aqua Teen shaking his ass in the intro of the last season, or it could be two shadow dudes, animals, or monsters fucking. I hypothesize there are some connections in my brain that are opened by a lack of choline driven by the M1 receptor I mentioned, allowing the cerebral cortex to bring info from the hippocampus and place it into the ocular electrical feed before it arrives at the prefrontal cortex for analysis. It could feed memories like hold up a cheeseburger to show me I should eat it because my body was hungry. I was very noticeably surprised and astonished by my hallucinations at every turn. Because of this surprising result, it looks like GABA neurons can become addicted to one's own dopamine supply, and it is known that GABA withdrawal can be deadly. Everywhere I looked, spiders and bugs were already there, and they were realistic 3D moving entities. These entities were up to 1 meter in diameter. They were formed of swirling black lines, some small enough to create a realistic entity, while others were meter-wide chaotic swirling lines. I could not hear them. Lack of glutamate allows that auditory hallucination connection to come to my prefrontal cortex if I am to believe my many dissociative experiments. Alternatively, perhaps severing some other connection makes it impossible to hallucinate many sound frequencies at all. Mr. Homie was working to scare me because I fucked up my amp shit and fucked myself over with meth, but I can't be scared. Mr. Homie kept taunting me, laughing, and making gay shadow caricatures. These hallucinations lasted about 24 hours as the dopamine probably had no natural mechanism to be removed from its destructive, unnatural place in various acetylcholine and hormonal synapses. It took about until 7 a.m. the next day for the hallucinatory experience to be over. I actually felt mostly fine after the experiment, but that damage is definitely irreversible. I'm never using meth again because it irked me from the moment I used it, just like Vyvanse. I don't like the excessive DA to NE ratio, nor the sigma-2 activation and the serotonin release. I snorted it over 5 days, and I stayed up 50 hours straight. When I peed, the smell was of putrid chemicals and it lingered in my bathroom for a few days. The acetylcholine problem snuck up on me again, like when I tried using MDA to fix immediate amphetamine withdrawal, but this time I wasn't plagued with suicidal thoughts, and the hallucinations were different and mostly visual. Dopamine overflows into serotonin, acetylcholine, and finally, adrenal receptors to try to safely displace the excess dopamine. Various other mechanisms like hormones for human growth and childbearing are likely affected too. If you continue to use meth after having a pissed off adrenal hallucination, I'm sure the hallucinations become gigantic and you die in slow motion. Methamphetamine appeared to have NET properties since it burned me over my whole body like 4-HOMET, and also like burning withdrawals people describe from cocaine and crack. It lacks the necessary dopamine inhibiting function which amphetamine possesses, and I think this leads to the poisonous feeling even in small amounts. Perhaps eventually the excess dopamine flows into the dopamine inhibiting mechanism, providing a false sense of security like when the unnatural dopaminergic acetylcholine action brings a false sense of calmness to the experience. Before I started hallucinating, the frequencies of sound I could hear were altered to make everything sound like it was coming from a tin drum. It doesn't appear suitable for use by anyone except people in a war zone. The excessive dopamine output and lack of an inhibiting mechanism by meth and newer drugs, possibly like alpha PVP, saws into the body, allowing many hidden mechanisms to be unearthed and subsequently destroyed or abused. This can create the sadistic types like Hitler by altering the natural mechanisms involved in sex. The government is trying to maintain these things using ADHD as a cover for its Desoxyn prescription, which I'm sure a high-ranking politician like Prince Andrew or a wealthy socialite like Jeffrey Epstein would have no issue obtaining. It's only approved for 5 milligrams, but it would be easy to forge the documents and siphon more of the drug from the documented restricted medical output. It would also be easy to masquerade illicitly produced meth as prescription Desoxyn, and no tricks would be needed for the medical records. I think prescription methamphetamine, Desoxyn, should be banned. Jesus Christ, I'm glad that fucking story is over. Man, this guy loves to type and write the word mechanism, doesn't he? He belongs to the I am very smart thread on Reddit, for sure. You know, people like this kind of piss me off a lot because these people want to sound smart, okay? But you can tell that they're not by the way how many times they use the same fucking word. Mechanism, alright, that's a good word. But don't use it 20 fucking times in your fucking 4-paragraph story or whatever the fuck it was. That was just so stupid. And this guy, I don't know, man, he had some stuff written here that I couldn't even say. I almost took out the gay thing that was in there. Like, some of this stuff was not even necessary to put in the story, but it really is, it delves into the mind of someone who's going through psychosis and what they experienced, and yeah, Desoxyn sounds pretty crazy. Have you guys ever done Desoxyn? Put in the comments below what you think of it. Should it be banned like this person said? I thought the hallucinations were pretty scary, so that's why I read this story, but before I read stories, I like to skim through it, not read the whole thing, you know, just see what this is about, and yeah, I don't know, it was not expecting that. But if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you're new, and yeah, tell me what you thought of the video, and have a nice day.